Well, I mean, like I said, I have many hats, and I'm involved in a lot of things. But I would just want to say, people should just keep, following, this particular platform and your show, because it inspires me too.
Oh, thank
when
you.
I first got here and I was watching, some of the interviews you were making. I think I even made a joke with you the first time I met. I'm like, I really want to be on your show.
Yes.
And I want to say, I made it.
Amen. It's happening.
On the show. Wow.
Gotta manifest, guys.
Like, wow, finally I was selected, and when I got the text, like, would you like to be? I'm like, yes. So, but it's surprising how inspiration goes in so many different ways, and you can be that inspiration to people without even knowing it. So I think I want to say, keep doing what you're doing. Refine it, make it better, but already just the fact that you've put in so much effort just to be out there and expose yourself to the world and let people know that you're willing to share with them and have these conversations. This is huge, right? And I'm inspired, and let's keep doing this. Let's keep finding ways of being that inspiration to the people. I think that's all I can say at this point.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. I absolutely love the fact that we were able to connect, because I can see us partnering even more in the future, especially where you're headed as well.
We have to.
And guys, let me tell you a little secret too. So he's over here saying how he's made it to the show. But do you know that I was so nervous interviewing him because this is a guy who does documentaries, he does filming. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, so he's gonna come to my house and I'm gonna be like fumbling with my equipment, trying to record him. And yeah, so I mean, I had my own nervous moments too.
But you're doing a great job.
So I finally made it.
Doing a great job. I'm excited.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Conversational Lounge Media, where we mentor, connect, and inspire others through real life stories. And my guest today is no exception to that. In fact, oh my goodness. In fact, I just want to put him on a spot because there's a program that only the exceptional young African leaders get nominated to join this program, and then they're brought to the United States. So this is not a program that just anyone can come and join. And he was one of I'm not even gonna ruin it. I'm gonna have him explain the whole situation. But he was one of those fellows that was picked and selected from his country to come to the United States. That is no easy feat. And for that, I just really cannot wait for our guest to introduce himself, just walk us through his journey. And hey, let's learn a little bit from him. So Jack, thank you so much for joining my show today. And welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
So for those people who are watching right now and they're listening to me rave about this Jack, can you tell them who Jack is and just a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so Jack is actually a lot of things. I need to figure out where to start. But, you mentioned about the Mandela Washington Fellowship, so probably I'll give a little background about that. But I'm really a Zimbabwean-born filmmaker, right? And I've been in, film and television production for over 16 years now. You'll calculate my age when I say I started making my films when I was about 19. That's when I made the first television show that was on the screen in my country. And at that time, it was ranked among the third most viewed television shows in the country. It was the most popular TV show.
Wow.
Magazine television show. Since then, I've been such a fan, about telling stories and promoting ideas. So after I started this television show, me and the team that was really my technical team, we decided to build the company. So we built the company out of the name of the show. So the show was actually called Jack's Shack, right? And just to give you a little summary about it. So there was this guy called Jack who nobody knew who he was, right? And he was kind of running things at the back, and he'd bring in different artists, creatives, musicians into a house. almost like a Big Brother setup, but it was like a creative house. And then we'd see how they generate ideas and music and all of that. And that was really fun because, we'd bring all the interesting characters that were at that time, up kind of reigning in the country. And then we had a fashion police segment where we really just went out there and, people who were really dressed out of order were really taken in, so we had that was an interesting segment.
Interesting,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and then we also had a young people's news segment where it was news, but in the perspective of young people. So they were just looking at, what are these folks doing out there? That's not how we would like to do it. If it's going to be news, let it be fun. Why does it always have to be sad?
Right.
Why is it always about the bad things? So they would bring in all the elements that they want to hear, right? And then we had a segment where we had a guy who was just a funny character who was just kind of giving people his perspective and his opinion on stuff, whether it's politics, sport, and all over. And then we had a hot seat. So it was really a mash of a lot of things. It was a magazine show. And then on the hot seat, would bring in popular figures and then would grill them about whatever is happening in their lives. So that was the show that created the company Jack's Shack International, right? And and then from that part, we realized that there's so many perspectives of telling stories. People want to be relaxed, like the setting right here. People want to hear what's going on out there. People want to laugh about things. You don't always want to be tense and depressed and sad. So we figured out we need to come up with a way of telling stories that's unique, right? So we started making more television programs after that. And for it to be sustainable, we needed to have corporate partners. So we were supposed to create commercials and all of the things that we're promoting. So we had a wing that focused on the television productions and a wing that focused on the commercials and marketing and distributing. So as we're doing that, we learned a lot about how to grow business, how businesses can attach their brands to products, endorsements, and all of that stuff. And then we became, partly a marketing agency because of the fact that we have to work with, the corporates to promote our business. So that's kind of like what we were doing. But as the years, went on, I had a couple of challenges. One of them was, a guy came in and said he wanted to invest, and he really didn't want to invest. He really was a con man. So he really signed me out of all my business and took everything away from me. So at one point, I lost everything that I'd worked for all of my life. But one thing that sustained me was, when I went to the national broadcaster at that time, because he went and tried to soil my name. And, and they told him, we don't know you, we know Jack. And they told me, you might have lost material things, money, equipment, and all of that. But what we believe is that you are the person who creates. So we will support you in whatever you do. And, I had organizations that were doing things, giving me opportunities to, to run events. I even did an ethno design fashion week that I directed, and that was funded by the Kellogg's Foundation. All of the things I was getting was just because of the credibility of my name. And then I realized, so it's not really about the business or about the backing or the capital, it's about you as an individual. If you have a credible name, who is Trudy? What does she do? What is she about? People will back you even in your absence, right? So when I realized that, that's when I decided to rebuild the company. But now I had a focus of rebuilding the company with a way of really telling the story, because I'd learned from myself that if you have a strong story, you might not have a lot of resources, but they will come out of who you are. And I started making documentaries, and that was the focus of our company when we started rebuilding it. So yeah, so basically we were rebuilding it, and we're making these documentaries, and that's how the United States Embassy got in contact with me, because some of the documentaries I was making and some of the TV shows I was doing. And they were like, hey Jack, don't you want to apply for this fellowship? So at first, the first 2 years I wasn't really serious with the application, to be honest. I was all over the place. But it's the third year that I applied that I actually knew I had gotten it even before I got the response, because I had set up my business in such a way that I knew what they were looking for. I knew the qualities they were doing. I knew the impact I was making in the community, and I put it all in that application. And I at least applied for it, within a time frame. The last 2 years, I would just do the last day of deadline, and I'd just put in my name and figure, put it out there.
Yep.
So yeah, so I sent it out. And I even told one of my friends that I think I'm going to the U.S. And people were like, "What are you going to be doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm thinking, And I went and I told my parents, and they really didn't believe. Like, what are you going to be doing in the U.S.? And then when I saw the email that says congratulations, I went and told people, "Well, I'm going for the interview now." They're like, "Yeah, but how did you get it?" I'm like, "That's what I've been trying to tell you. You have to believe in yourself."
Yes. Yes.
So most of the story, before I even talk about the fellowship experience, is about just knowing yourself and believing in yourself. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I cannot agree more to that.
Yeah. So and then I went into the interview. You'll be surprised, but I was so nervous in that interview.
I want to hear about it.
I was so nervous in that interview. And they were asking me all these questions. They're like, "Are you the actual person who wrote the application?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." I don't know why I was this nervous. I think the main reason is I'd forgotten my ID. So they made me wait for 45 minutes whilst they were verifying it's me. They had to call, the registrar office and all of that. And they finally allowed me to get in the interview. I'm like, I thought it was all messed up.
At that point, you're like, do I really still want to do this?
So I think by the time I got in there, I was so nervous. And then they were talking. And then they said, "Do you have any special project that you're doing?" And then that's when I brought up that I'm working on Africa Live Network, the platform that we're going to, put all the films for Africans and African, people with, African origin anywhere in the world, just to be able to profile what are they doing in their innovations. So that is what kind of took it, to a different level. Wait.
Okay, so this thing took it to the next level. What is African Live Network?
Yeah, so Africa Live Network is an application that we're developing.
Okay.
And it's going to be like a streaming platform where you can watch any African content, right? Like shows like this one, right? Where you've got people talking to other Africans, or it could be African Americans, it could be Caribbean, anyone with an African, descent. And what are they doing? So it's going to be movies about the documentaries mainly, because we want to really showcase, stuff out there that's hidden stories, Black history stories. There's so many Black history stories right now here in the United States that people don't know about, like people who did great, right? So Africa Live Network is really designed to promote those ideas. But beyond just promoting, it's also designed to connect, So all of these Africans all over the world have a platform where they can connect with their innovations, with their ideas, with their business, whatever opportunities that they have or they're trying to create. And then we want to connect them with investors, we want to connect them with buyers, we want to connect them with, people all over the world to support. So it's really to build an ecosystem, and to build a thriving space, for Africans. And that's really what kind of shook, the interviewers when they were like, "Wow, so who's going to be involved?"
That is major, yeah.
Yeah. And then we were like, well, starting off with the Mandela Washington Fellows themselves, they're all out there doing great things, but nobody knows what they're doing,
No. To be honest, I literally just learned of the Yali last year for the first time in history. So yeah, again, if we had an African Live Network, maybe I would have learned about it like a long time ago.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, what is the Mandela Washington Fellowship, which was your first question, and it took so long to just answer the question. But,
no, that was a good story.
I was trying to give you a background. So it's really a U.S. State Department program that tries to look for the best and brightest Africans who are really running businesses in any part of the continent, sub-Saharan Africa, and who are really making an impact in their communities, and who are really leading in transformational change, and who really kind of just trying to make an impact. So the selection process is really tough. Thousands and thousands of talented people apply for it, right? And only a few get selected every year, right? And once you get an opportunity to be selected, they have institutions around the country here in the US that host them, and then there's a leadership program that happens for over 6 weeks where you're meeting with city leaders, you're meeting with people in business, you're meeting with top corporations, and you're really learning how the U.S. business and ecosystem and the whole structure is run, so that you can go back to your country and really make an impact.
Wow.
Yeah, some of these fellows, when they go back, and even when they come here, some of these fellows take top positions in government. Some of these fellows have really unique innovations, and they're running some really powerful businesses, or they're making a strong advocacy for climate change. Whatever they're doing, they're leading in their areas of space. So it's really a top-notch program, right? And the State Department brags about it being a flagship program for their fellowship programs that they do. So I had the opportunity to be a fellow 2018.
Congratulations. Yeah. That is a big deal.
Yeah, well, it is a big deal, and fortunately I got that opportunity. And when I got here, the first thing I did was, as I was going on a tour with a lady called Mary Bontrager, was with the Des Moines, Greater Des Moines Partnership. I learned a lot about how, like I always use the word ecosystem, you notice the ecosystem here is so vibrant, right? How they try to, help businesses grow, how they try to help organizations to really plug into the community, like how there's an intentional purpose in every area of space, a food chain, that feeds into the next, and then a thriving, economic growth plan, for everybody who plugs in here. And I was like, hey man, this is so cool. Why can't we do a documentary? So that's what I offered, and she said, that's a great idea, let's do it. And she facilitated, for me to produce a documentary about the city of Des Moines. And she got a guy called Sam Hoyle was, coordinating, and the Greater Des Moines Partnership agreed to sponsor it. So whilst I was here for the fellowship, in my spare time, I was going around the city, meeting city leaders, filming a documentary on the side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's exactly why you were exceptional.
Yeah. So.
And then you completed the documentary during the 6-week period?
I completed the documentary, but I challenged myself to do another documentary at the same time. So whilst I was doing the documentary for the city, I also was doing a documentary for the fellowship itself. So I was interviewing the fellows, trying to find out about their background, what they're doing in their countries, all of that stuff. So I did 2 documentaries at the same time. In fact, 3, because I also got asked to do a shorter documentary by the Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity. And whilst we're doing some voluntary work, they're like, hey Jack, we hear you doing documentaries, can you do something for our shop as well? Because we help people out, they're a Christian organization. So I did something for their shop as well. I had the volunteers come in, and at that time the fellows were coming in. They were talking about the work they were doing and all of that. Like, I really like to plug into spaces and get things done, right? So during the 6 weeks I was initially here, I produced more than 3 documentaries. The city documentary, the fellowship documentary, and the habitat documentary. And I really wasn't sleeping, because most of my time, either I was going out doing interviews, or going out, connecting, or actually going out meeting people. So, when I was done at 10, 11 p.m. with, whether it's filming or whatever, I'd go out again, go and find where are the, leaders of the city, where do they sleep? Do they even sleep? How can I introduce myself to them? How can I connect to people who are leaders in the city? And I realized that, people in America don't actually sleep. If you're doing something, and if you're working, and if you're an idea, there's always someone somewhere awake, willing to take your call, or willing to talk in their free time, and willing to get things happen. So I made a lot of connections during my fellowship program. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. That is a lot of really, really, really good background there. What a strong story. Yeah. So if someone's just wondering, like I am wondering, like what goes into creating a documentary?
So really, I mean, the first thing is, what story do you want to tell, right? Would you want to tell a story about, Trudy and who she is and what she does, right? Or Trudy's organization, right? What are they about? Or, the business that she runs. What's the focus of the story? And then we really, do an introspection around that. And then we do an analysis of the environment. Who is she? in contact with? Who is she touching? You know, what lives is she changing with whatever she does? So we really look at all these factors and we say, so if we're going to tell this story, we need to bring up all the things that are around this person or this personality or this brand, and then that's how we come up with the script, right? And then it has to be detailed from scratch, like all the information that makes the difference, that makes the impact, right? And then we look for who are the people that are around her, right? Is it the husband? Is it the family? Is it the sister? Is it the people in the community? Is it colleagues? Is it workmates? As you can see, as you're lining up all these people, you have all these people who are going to support the story because they know you. And when you speak about the food, someone else will talk about, oh, Trudy loves so much food and she loves this type of wine or this type of tequila, all of that. And someone else is like, oh, Trudy likes to dance and this is the music she likes to dance to. So you get a whole holistic story because you've got a foundation of people who really understand and know you. So that's how it's documentation of your story, and they call it a documentary because it's a visual documentation of who this person is and what that story is. And for that story to make impact, you really want to focus on the audience too. When you're like, so what do the audience want to know about this person? What are the interesting tips? And then we dig into those things. What are the interesting things about Trudy that a lot of people out there, even if they have never heard about you, that they want to know, right? Oh, she likes to make, connections with people. The moment you meet Trudy, she wants to connect you with the person that's going to get you to the next place. She likes to promote people. She likes to, inspire people with knowledge. She's someone who wants to get people out there who just come into the US. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to get, whatever information, but what, she's that person. And people get excited.
You really know a lot about me. When is this documentary coming out?
And then people get excited and like, yep, I want to watch this. And that's kind of like, in summary, that's how you come up with a documentary.
Wow. Fun fact about me is I am a documentary junkie.
Wow.
At my free time, I am watching documentaries.
Okay.
I love documentaries.
Yeah.
I watch documentaries to sleep. So just meeting the other side, because now I'm talking to someone who's behind the documentary. Like, you speak to the side of me that why I find documentaries very interesting is because they're very detailed. They're very telling. And it's wow. So all that goes into creating it.
It's a fact-finding mission, right? And we're all about presenting the facts. We're all about debunking the myths, right? So there's so many myths, for example, about Africa, and that's one of the reasons why we really decided to do Africa Live Network, where a lot of people just don't know what goes on in Africa. Some people don't even know if we have paved roads in Africa, and I've had that question being asked to me a lot by people here in the United States, right? Like, oh, do you guys have Wi-Fi? And I'm like, seriously, dude, we have a lot of technology.
That is true, because we don't tell our stories enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the stories that are told are just the marginalized stories, right? So, I want to put the World Food Prize on the spot here. You go to the World Food Prize and you go to their gallery. It's the saddest stories, it's the saddest pictures, it's the wars, it's all the negativity. So if somebody who's in the US and the colleges go there, and the university students and the high schoolers, they go there for their tours, and it's saddening because that's the only picture they see, right? And when Kenneth Quinn was the president, I had a chat with him because I interviewed him for my documentary, and I'm like, why does the World Food Prize do this? And he's like, well, some of our funders, they want to send the picture, so that they're able to say, hey, we need to help these people out. I'm like, okay, that's great, but it just brings in depression. I mean, someone walks in there, when we had a tour in there with our fellows, our group of fellows, they cried because they were like, I'm from Sudan, but this is
I haven't seen this side of Sudan.
You know what I mean? I'm from Ghana, but where did they get this picture? And then we that kind of reaffirmed our mission of we have to tell an accurate story, right? Just like the US, there is a lot of violence in Chicago. There's a lot of things that happen all over the country, but when they show their story, they don't just show that. Yeah, of course they've got movies that have action and all that, but they show themselves as the thriving nation, as a nation that's always winning, as a nation that everybody's always singing the U.S. anthem, the flag, and the great nation, and that's the story that comes out there. So as Africa, we also need to do that, project the quality, the talent, project the uniqueness, right? And if you're telling your story, why would you want to project the sad things about you? Why would you want to just showcase the things that a lot of people don't like? project the positivity, the energy, the passion, you know, that you have in things, and that way, you know, you get a lot of people inspired because you don't understand. Just people watching this show, people get inspired, right? I had a story with a young man here who works for Principal, and he said to me, you know what, you're talking about documentaries. I watched a documentary when I was in high school, and it was about a guy who, you know, was doing technology. He was an engineer, and, you know, and he was black, and he was doing very well. And I thought to myself, I want to be an engineer too, and that's why I'm an engineer, and now I work for Principal. And I'm like, so it's just that film that changed his life. Imagine if we have multiple films like that, you know, that just inspire, motivate, encourage. How many would, you know, people of color would we see being successful in their spaces?
Thank you. Representation matters.
Yeah.
Just seeing someone that looks like you, has the same abilities, disabilities, or just something that looks similar to you doing something great, it gives you this. It's so interesting how it works, but it gives you that, like, I don't even know how to say it, but it just makes you believe that you can do that. And you bring up a really good point when you talk about, you know, creating that platform where we can actually start telling that all the sides of the African stories, right? And I'm gonna pivot for just a second, but lately I've been thinking to myself, there's something about when we go home, back home meaning back to Africa, and you buy anything from the US, it's like, oh, it's from the US, oh, it must be very good, or it's made in this place, or it has to have quality. So it's because the US has told all their stories, and now we equate quality to that. So I think we need to do more of that about Africans, that way to a point where we can see something that's made in Zimbabwe, made in Kenya, made in Africa, and we can say, oh yeah, Africa makes quality things. I mean, and that's just an example, but I just love what you're doing.
So it's all about the inferiority complex and the superiority complex, right? So, you know, like it or hate it, America will always pose, you know, the superiority complex. We have it all. We have Superman. We have all the great stuff that happens here. We make all the great gadgets, you know, whatever it's going to be. Is it an iPhone? Is it whatever that is? And because they sell their brand very well, and they're very good at selling. Whatever, you know, when you watch the latest movie, you don't realize that it's selling. So here's an argument that I'm going to leave for you on this show and everybody who's watching, right? So we have Wakanda, right? And Wakanda Forever, and you know, we want to, you know, give our respects to Chad. You know, he did a great job, you know, when he was alive. But I have a few problems with Wakanda, right? The first thing is that when you watch American movies, they give us real life places. They talk about Beverly Hills. They talk about California. They talk about New York. They have the Eiffel Tower. All of that. When you want to go to America, you want to go to these places. Talk about Wakanda. What is Wakanda, right?
Oh my goodness.
We're not even talking about a real place. They talk about Africa, but they're not mentioning Africa. They're mentioning something else. They talk about Africa as a background of the story, like, oh, this is an African movie, but is it really an African movie? Because if it was an African movie, then it would be shot in a real African country. You know, why not choose a beautiful country that we would want to choose? You know, for argument's sake, why not go to Ghana? Why not go to Senegal? Why not go to Nigeria? You know, everybody knows Nigeria. You know, why not go to whatever country you want to pick? Pick a real city, right? Pick a real language. If it's a real African movie, then those components should be there. Why? So that we can promote, right? So that we can have the products, so that we can have the clothes, so that we can have, so everything was built, you know, in an imaginary world, and it's all Wakanda. But if we talk Disney, we already have a Disney, and we can go there and we can see a Mickey Mouse, but we're not going to have a Wakanda unless we're building a Wakanda here in the US. So that's a distortion of the economy of the Africans. But it's not you know, it's not their fault, because they're doing it for us. Look at how well it's grossed, right? Look at how much money it's grossed, and we're just talking about, you know, it making sales in the ticket box. But where the real money is in the merchandise. Where the real money is in the franchise and all of the things that come after it. So if we're going to make films, right, which is, you know, leading to your question, this is what we're supposed to promote: real products from Africa, real places in Africa, real life inventions, innovations, and we brand them well. And that's where we want to take a role as Africa Live and say there's still that connection. Well done to all the creators of Wakanda. They kind of brought us close. Well done to the creators of Woman King. They brought a history that is very connected.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah, really good. But let's take it a bit further. Let's be fact-based. Africa Live Network is about being fact-based. It could be a fiction movie, but with a lot of facts in it. You could even sit down in an examination on African history and pass when you watch some of our movies. That's what we're thinking about.
Real life stories.
Real life stories.
Speaking to me.
And that way, people then believe that we have these beautiful places, we have these beautiful products, we have these beautiful cosmetics or whatever that's going to be, and there's a lot of nature, there's a lot of places you can visit, there's a lot of all of that commerce that can thrive out of it, and researchers are saying Africa is going to be the next biggest economy in the next few years. It's not going to be that if somebody doesn't build. And our role as Africa Live is to be one of the contributors to building that and connecting specifically the United States, because it's got so much potential in growing businesses and in supporting, to say, hey, let's look at an opportunity here and let's build on it, because the Chinese are jumping on it, the Russians are jumping on it, and all of these other people are jumping on it, but they're not playing a fair game, right? They come with a totally different agenda. If we come with an organized agenda to say we want to showcase all the potential and boost it and make money, everybody makes money.
So Royko likes to be a part of the show, and we will let him be a part of the show. So welcome to Conversational Lounge Media. This segment is made possible by contributions from Kel Carlson with Journey Mortgage. If you're in the Des Moines area or Iowa and you're looking to purchase or refinance on your home, get a hold of Journey Mortgage or Kel Carlson, and they will take care of you.
The more you practice, and when you want to direct people, you've got to know what you're talking about. So you end up having to learn, how do you do this? So
yeah. I'm right there with you. I understand.
There's a book I read from this guy called Gladwell. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell. He says if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're going to become an expert at it. So so the more you practice, the better you become at it, I guess.
No, that is so true.
Yeah.
I remember, so I started the whole, just recording myself during quarantine because we needed something to do outside of watching COVID news on TV all the time. It
was beginning to be depressing, right?
Exactly. So I just started recording myself, and the first few videos, I absolutely hated them. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, ew, that's how I sound like, because usually we talk, but we don't know how we sound like. And I just kept doing it, like you're saying, to a point where I'm like, oh, it's second nature.
It becomes a part of you. So it's interesting, really.
So you're telling me about the documentary.
Oh yes. So we're talking about how all of these other countries, they'll dive into the pot if the United States or any of these developed countries don't make an intentional business plan and effort to say, how can we come together. Let's forget about colonization. Let's forget about what happened in the last 200 years. Let's focus on growth and development and opportunity cost. And as Africa Live, we want to be the broker of that business. Where are you an investment firm or venture capitalist or whatever you are? What are you thinking of gaining? We have so much potential, raw material. Like a lot of raw material comes from Africa, to produce whatever it is that we're producing out there, even if it's going to be for the technology pieces that we use for our phones, whatever. Most of the raw material comes from Africa, right? So we're saying, why not create partnerships? Why not have some of our manufacturing plants go there? Why not have so many ideas? Because some of those people out there are actually having ideas that you just need capitalization. So Africa Live seeks to be that bridge where, besides just having these documentaries being showcased, right, and these stories being told, we want to have the forums where people can meet, whether virtually or sometimes hybrid or even in person, where we create the platform where that's going to happen. Through Africa Live, we want to create the interface, right? Right now, A couple of weeks ago, we heard Kamala Harris, dedicated about $100 million, specifically to the young African leaders who were part of the fellowship, to do innovation ideas in Africa and to support. We want to be able to say, what is it that they're doing? Connect, the US government here with that budget and, all of that stuff. We want to be that centerpiece because there's no one really focusing on, creating the conversation and just like you're doing right now, creating the conversation. So we want to be able to create that conversation, primarily here in the US, but also at a global stage as well, where it's a place you can go, you can research, you can spend so many hours on there, just kind of learning, adapting, trying to reach out to certain people. And if you want to do anything that has anything connected or related to Africa, then that's going to be your spot. And our goal out of that is that people will start believing in African brands, people will start believing in African people, because there's a lot of skepticism and doubt. Are they able to do this? Are they able to to compete at a global stage? Are they able to create a car that'll be just as good as whatever cars we have out there? But then if we give them an opportunity, then we'll realize, probably they've got a lot of things out there that we just didn't know about. So that's the goal with Africa Live. That's the goal with the stories that we tell, with the documentaries that we tell, with our company that's here and our business that we're running out here. Yeah.
Wow. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I've always said that everybody has a story to tell.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a matter of creating enough platforms and a lot of networks. That way everybody can have an opportunity to share their own authentic story.
Yeah.
What you just shared today, that's unique to you. That's your story. That's your lens to the world.
Yeah.
And your story will touch a lot of people that are they're passionate and interested in what you're doing, you know what I mean? But then if someone else comes and they share their own story as well, they speak to someone else.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is absolutely, I'm 100% passionate about that. I absolutely love what you're doing. And I really cannot wait to see, what comes out of it. I know it's going to be amazing. And then do you have time frames when you're thinking to, go live, launch?
Oh, yeah. So the launch for our minimum viable product, which we've been developing for 3 years, with a lot of ups and downs, technology, there's a time that we were even, we went through a whole lot of technological challenges. But we finally, have a tech team we've settled with that's based out of Canada, and they're doing a great job developing our product. And we're hoping March we're going to launch our first phase, right? Where we're going to have invited people within our network, and if you want, to be part of the people on the test run of the project, you can get in touch with us on info@africalivenetwork.tv, or even on my personal email, jack@africalivenetwork.tv, and we'll put you on the database, and you can be part of the people who want to, have the first experience of the minimum viable product. And then we hope to do the whole testing within 6 months, so that closer to the end of the year, we probably have built enough capacity to launch the full platform, to the world, and that's really something that we're excited about. Even the MVP itself, we're really excited about it because we get to test out, all the things that we've been working on. We get to test out all the content creators coming on there, bringing in their content. We got to test out, all the things that we can be able to do. Get feedback from everybody who's going to be part of the, first few people who are, part of the, test run, and then we can be able to fine tune it, make it better, and launch it to the public.
Yeah. Wow, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And then, so just logistically speaking, so I know it's an app. So will you also have a physical studio where people that are local can come and record there, or is it more they're recording and then they're sending the contents into this network?
So if you come to our offices, we are at 2323, it's Grand Terrace offices and studios. We're really actually building studios, so we want to have podcast studios there, we want to have visual studios there, so if people want to come in and do all of the things and create the content or whatever, we want to facilitate for them to be able to do that. People are already creating content wherever they are. We still want to support them for wherever they are. And we have organizations that we're setting up that's going to even help to train people so that, you know, you get to be able to produce top-notch, high-quality content, right? And, you know, that can compete with anything anywhere else. So we are putting the right mechanisms to have all of these things happen, whether you want to do it with us physically or you want to do it by yourself. You bring it to us and then we look at it and say, this is good enough, let's put it on there. So yeah.
Wow. Can you see me doing the happy dance, or can you hear my internal screams right now? I absolutely love it because you know, I haven't met that many content creators here in Iowa. I mean, here in Des Moines. Let's just start here. So wow, I just sign me up. I want to be on the waiting list or whatever. I want to come see all that because I absolutely love what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we want this show on the platform, right? We want it to be one of the leading shows because it's doing exactly what we want, having these conversations with all these, you know, African people who are really doing stuff in the community, and that's the type of thing we want, and to reach out to your, you know, people who follow you, and to reach out to you know, the community of the people that really are inspired by your work. So it's really a hand in glove where we're saying, you know, we have to work with each other. You know, you can't have a glove if you don't have a hand, right? So let's work together.
Yeah. Wow, Jack. I absolutely enjoyed having this conversation with you today. I would love to continue having this conversation with you even in the future. You know, when you launch, I would like to come back again and talk about it. But before I let you off the hot seat, I know there's a lot of people that are, you know, right now as you're speaking, they're really fascinated with any part of your journey, or they're really inspired by what you're doing, or they would just like to borrow a leaf from your journey or your personal story. So for such a person, what word of encouragement or an advice would you leave for them?
All right, so I mean, you know, before I give the advice, I'd like to say, I think by the time this show is screening, we already launched our podcast, which is going to be Afrobiz. You know, you can find it on any platform. You just look for Afrobiz, right? By Jack Chimbetete, and you know, on that platform, we get to have more conversations with, you know, people who are in business, who are here in the Midwest or in any part, you know, of the world actually, and we just get to share notes and continue having the conversation. So people who want to continue listening, you know, to us, or who even want to be part of the conversations and part of the podcast, you know, can come and be part of it and you know, and listen and you know, just kind of share ideas. It's all about sharing ideas and growing, right? So that's one thing that we're doing. And then, you know, in terms of just giving some motivation and encouragement, I would like to say, I mean, the first thing is you have to believe in yourself. The world out there is not easy, right? Whatever part of the world you are, it's got challenges. You might think, okay, maybe in the West it's better than in the East. You might think, oh, maybe you know, it's better back in Africa than it is, you know, in Europe. But I'll tell you that, you know, everywhere has its challenges. So wherever you are positioned, you know, just like the conversation we had before and said, you have to say whatever you do, perform and do it at 105%, you know. Put a lot of effort in everything that you do, because that builds credibility, right? When people know about you and hear about you, they'll be like, that person, whatever you bring them into, they're fully committed. So we don't mind bringing them into, you know, all of the things that would want them. I've been invited. I've had the pleasure and opportunity to be invited on various boards and organizations and companies and businesses here in the US and even back home, just because people know that if you bring Jack on board, he's going to be committed, right? And just because of that, you know, that'll attract a lot of attention. So if you're that sort of a person who's really committed in everything you do, who totally believes in themselves, because that's a critical piece. Some people just doubt themselves, you know, so much. It's like, oh, can I really do it? Am I really the person for this? You know, will I really get the job if I go to the interview? You can't go there with that mindset. You have to go there, wherever you go, with the mindset that I am that person. You know, I am unique in my own way. I was created differently. I have my own blessing and gift. So I just have to go and showcase it. And when you put it that simply and you discover yourself and you discover your potential, when you talk about it, people can tell there's something unique about this person. We want to associate with this person. So everybody out there has their different talent and skills. Just identify it, groom it, you know, work with it, nurture it, and you'll become the best at whatever you are. And that's how different it is. And that's how the world can be a successful place, because everybody can succeed. I could go on and on, but I'll say you can be the best at whatever you want to be.
Amen. I mean, what else do we need to add to that one? That is spot on.
Yeah.
This has been one of the most riveting conversations I've had.
Yeah,
Absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You are such a vibe. You are so knowledgeable. You're such a strong leader. And I mean, I know I've served with you in a board, and I can see that leadership shining through. And you're really, if you want something done, you go for it.
Yep.
So I have no doubt that this launch will be successful. It will be amazing, and it will really be something that we've been looking forward to having. Just having that network where we can, continue sharing stories and really telling it the way we want to tell it.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, is there as a parting shot, is there anything that I didn't get a chance to ask you today, but you really feel that you need to let your audience know?
Well, I mean, like I said, I have many hats, and I'm involved in a lot of things. But I would just want to say, people should just keep, following, this particular platform and your show, because it inspires me too.
Thank you.
When I first got here and I was watching some of the interviews you were making, I think I even made a joke with you the first time I met. I'm like, I really want to be on your show.
Yes.
And I want to say I made it.
Amen. It's happening.
On the show. Wow.
You gotta manifest, guys.
Like, wow, finally I was selected, and when I got the text, like, would you like to be? I'm like, yes. So, but it's surprising how inspiration goes in so many different ways, and you can be that inspiration to people without even knowing it. So I think I want to say, keep doing what you're doing. Refine it, make it better, but already just the fact that you put in so much effort just to be out there and expose yourself to the world and let people know that you're willing to share with them and have these conversations. This is huge, right? And I'm inspired, and let's keep doing this. Let's keep finding ways of being that inspiration to the people. I think that's all I can say at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the fact that we were able to connect, because I can see us partnering even more in the future, especially where you're headed as well.
We have to.
And guys, let me tell you a little secret too. So he's over here saying how he's made it to the show. But do you know that I was so nervous interviewing him because this is a guy who does documentaries, he does filming. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, so he's gonna come to my house and I'm gonna be like fumbling with my equipment, trying to record him. And yeah, so I mean, I had my own nervous moments too.
But you're doing a great job.
So I finally made it.
Doing a great job. I'm excited.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Well, thank you.
And everybody who's watching at home, thank you so much for being a part in watching this episode. If any part of this speaks to you or anyone that you know, please don't be afraid to share this video with them, because what speaks to you might speak to someone else. And just like we said, everybody has a story to tell. You just don't know which story will speak to which person. So again, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Wonderful.